Hi, welcome again to the best year of your life. I'm here with Justin Michael Williams, an author, transformational speaker, and recording artist. Justin works at the intersection of music, mindfulness, and social justice, and has become a millennial voice for diversity and inclusion in wellness. His book is called Stay Woke, a meditation guide for the rest of us. Welcome, Justin. I'm so excited to be here with you.
Hey, Sarah, it's so good. So good to be here for this summit. What an incredible group of people that have been pulled together for this. I'm super excited.
Yay. So, today in our summit, the theme is health and well being. And as we begin our conversation, I'd like to ask you about your upbringing, your background, and really your journey that's led you to where you are today. Could you talk a little bit about that and we can understand better where you come from and how you do your work?
Yeah, totally. So, gosh, people are often surprised when I tell them that, I grew up in a home literally with gunshot holes on the outside of my house, with domestic violence and just a lot of trauma, and my parents did the best that they could, given the circumstances that we were in. They actually did an incredible job given the circumstances that we were in, but with a lot of trauma. And, when you grow up with that kind of trauma, similar to what I think a lot of our young people are facing today, especially youth of color or growing up in any marginalized community, one of the things that Marianne Williamson often says is that the kids today, the science is showing that they're growing up with a level of PTSD similar to returning war veterans coming back from a war, but there's nothing P or post about it when it's every day. It's like present traumatic stress disorder. So that was me. Okay. So growing up, and people are usually pretty shocked to hear that. And I think the reason for that is because, when you grow up with any kind of trauma, regardless of what it is, no matter how much money you had or what conditioning you had, we all learn to adapt. And, my adaptation was one that looked healthy on the outside, whereas I think some people's adaptations look a little bit more harmful. My adaptation was one that I think a lot of people here probably share, which was becoming a constant and chronic overachiever. Feeling like if I do enough, if I accomplish enough, I'll be able to get out of here. I'll get validated enough. If I do enough, then I'll finally be enough. Yep, you're pointing your finger. You do that too. A lot of us do, right? And so what happens? What's the shadow of that is like our self-worth gets totally intertwined with our achievements, and we don't know who we are outside of what we do. And, so for me, I was that annoying kid. I checked every box there was to check, Sarah. I graduated the top of my class. I got a full ride academic scholarship to go to UCLA. I get to LA. I come out of the closet. I have extra money from scholarships for the first time. I'm in the most impacted major at school. My life looked like a dream. I remember literally like when I went to go visit colleges when I was 16, and I like imagined what my life would be like living in LA, and it looked better. And I had this moment sitting on my dorm room floor at 19 years old, struggling with an eating disorder at the time. And I looked in the mirror and I said, how is it possible that I have done everything? I've done everything that anyone has ever expected me to do and surpassed it. And I'm still miserable.
Mm.
How am I still miserable? And I think so many of us have gotten to this point. You're saying, yeah, I can see the look on your face. Cause like we've all been there, right? We've all been there. And, so what happened to me at that point is I told you I had an eating disorder. I think it was because I was just trying to like figure out what was wrong, like what to control. So right now you can never tell on Zoom, but I'm about 6 feet tall. I weigh like 160. And at the end of my freshman year of college, I weighed 115 pounds at 6 feet. And
Yikes.
still thought I was fat, which is insane. And so, I don't want to say insane, which was difficult. And so I collapsed on a treadmill at school one day, which I'm laughing because it's just so ridiculous. And I end up having to go to the doctor. I go to therapy, which was a huge secret at the time, and I get to therapy and the therapist tells me, well, you should try meditation. And I literally look at this man. So this is like 17 years ago, I look at this man and I go, meta what? Like, I was just like, What are you talking about? Like, you have to recall, like, at that time, Oprah hadn't done a meditation challenge. I didn't know no Black people meditating. I think I asked him, I was like, isn't that thing where they like worship those statues with all those arms? Where is it worshiping the devil? And he looks at me and he says, no, this is a practice that helps you find your happiness inside of you.
Mm.
Looks like you've been spending your whole life trying to find it outside, which I think so many of us have done, right? Trying to change the external, hoping it's going to change something within. And he's like, this helps you find it within. And that set me on this insanely incredible, wild, topsy-turvy journey to what I call being a self-help junkie, to now being here and having my own book and being able to speak and teach all over the world, and even having the blessing, it's always a shock, of sharing the stage with some of these people whose books I read, when I was 19. So anyways, that's the little bit of the journey of how we got here today.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, I'm, completely resonating over here, and I have a feeling that many of our audience members are as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So in your approach to this topic, I think the word transformation might be a good way to frame it. You really weave together not just one thing. You don't just talk about meditation. You weave a tapestry of music and meditation, equality. And I'm wondering why you've chosen to do that weaving instead of focusing on one topic. And I'm asking you for a specific reason.
Okay.
Which is that I think that's my approach as well in the world, is weaving as a tapestry. I think that's more genuine. I think that's more human.
Yeah.
But I also know that a lot of people get really confused and think they really need to just focus on meditation or social justice or, you name it. And so I just would love to hear you talk about this weaving quality. And I think that'll be really empowering for our listeners.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. I had a huge teaching that one of my mentors, or a lesson that one of my mentors gave me, because for a while I felt schizophrenic, and I'm a musician over here, and I'm a meditation teacher over here, and then I'm this person over here, and then I'm marketing over here, and then running my business in the background. Like, what is going on? And then one of my teachers about 5 years ago said something that changed my life, and this is going to be helpful for anybody who does like different things. And he said to me, the issue that you're having, and that most people have, is they try to define what they do and who they are as a noun.
Mm.
And a noun is limiting. So when you say, I'm a teacher, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, it's so limiting, right? Because you're all those things. And then what about all the times that like you're not doing that? Then what are you, when you're being a mother or, a sister or whatever it is that you're doing, working out. And so he said, when you define your purpose as a noun, then all of a sudden, what happens to all the time that you're not doing that one noun-like activity? And so he said, instead, I want you to start looking at your purpose as a verb in action. What do you do? Think about that phrase. People are asking, what do you do? If they're asking for the action, and we reply with, I'm a this, I'm a that. And so when you flip that, it changes everything. And so for me, all of my work, and I'm glad you said this word transformation, is really the doing of the action, is I empower people to break beyond their limiting beliefs and transform their lives so they can live the life that they dream of. And sometimes I do it through writing. Sometimes I do it through music. Sometimes I do it around social justice. Sometimes I do it talking on a summit. Do you know what I mean? Like there's speaking at colleges, like there's so many different ways, but what I'm doing is really the same thing. And I think if people listen to any of my music, if they read any of my work, they're going to feel that same resonance of this is here to help you break beyond, whether it's about social justice, your personal limiting beliefs, the limiting beliefs of our society, and step into a new vision for the world. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's helpful, but that's like, that changed the game for me. And I said, oh, my purpose will manifest in so many different ways in the world. And so how do I just stay true to the root of it, as we step through? So.
Yes. Thank you.
Yummy, right? Isn't that a good one? You know?
So, okay, so if we're talking about dreams, how can we harness our dreams despite the fact, or in spite of the fact, or because of, or even if we feel stuck, oppressed, marginalized, unseen? I mean, what does that journey
Yeah,
require?
a lot. So I think I'll say, I say that half jokingly, but I think one of the big, well, there's two things that are like wanting to come out at the same time. So the first thing is, I imagine, Sarah's story that you've seen or heard about my grandmother that I think is important to tell
Yeah,
about stepping
please.
into your dreams. So I'll start there, and then I want to say um, that I think there's a half of the equation that people miss when they're
Mm,
talking about stepping forward. So I'll talk about that afterwards. So, the short version of the story is several years ago, about 8 years, almost 9 years ago, my grandmother, who I was very, very close to, got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and the doctors told her she only had a couple months to live. And it was a huge shock to our entire family. She was 67, which I consider young, like very active, like seemingly healthy. And so I flew home from LA to the Bay Area. I'm from a little town called Pittsburgh, California. Most people don't know that there is a Pittsburgh in California, but there is. It's near Oakland.
yes.
And so I flew home. I walk in the door. I have my suitcase. She pulls me right into the back room. Everybody, all my family's at the house. She goes, shh, pulls me back to the back room and asks me a question that changed the trajectory of my whole life.
Mm,
She just said, if you were in my shoes,
mm,
and you knew you were going to die in 2 months, what would you do? And I look at her and I'm like, what? Like, I'm just like, what do you, I just got off the plane. Like, what are you talking about? She said, get quiet,
mm,
get still, do that meditation thing you're always talking about. And what she really said was, and don't you open your lips until you're going to tell me the truth.
mm,
The
mm,
truth. We'll sit here until you're ready to tell me the truth. And so I just am like, okay. So I close my eyes. And I felt this well of emotions just come up, and I wanted to cry, but I couldn't cry because when I was a kid, they said only faggots cry. And then I just blurted out, I said, I would stop every single thing that I'm doing
mm,
and I would record an album. I would do music. I would travel. I would speak. I would teach, and I would stop hiding myself behind the scenes. And the reason I share this right now with you all is because, not to like make you feel bad for me or anything, because what happened after that, is, I had always wanted to do music ever since I was a little boy. I always wanted to be speaking and teaching and on stages and whatever, but I never thought I was good enough. I let all the kids who teased me and bullied me at school about being gay, about being make me think I sucked at everything, and I stopped myself. And I think we all have these things. We all have these dreams or these ideas or these goals or these moments where we close our eyes and we can see that dream for our lives. Sometimes it creeps in and it goes, this. And then we stop because we say, I should have started before I had kids. I waited too long. You're too fat. You're too old. You're too ugly. You're too black. You're too poor. You're too gay. You're not good enough. Like whatever. It tells us that we're not enough. And so when my grandmother asked me this question, it woke something up inside of me that I thought was dead, Sarah, like thought was gone. And because I had spent my whole life trying to be successful, and let go of that dream. And so the reason I looping that in is because when you asked about if you're marginalized or oppressed or growing up in any group that has struggle, like systemic struggle in some way, what happens for most of us is we spend our entire life dreaming of getting out of the circumstance. And that was my whole life. It was like, how am I going to get out of the hood? How am I going to get out of here? How am I going to make enough money to get my family out of here? And in that process, we're all required to let go of our real dream, to let go of our dharma, to let go of those things because we're so focused on getting out. And that's what my grandmother saw that day. And there's this quote that I'm going to share with you. And I'm going to warn you, this quote's going to hit you. Okay. So I'm just warning everybody because this is one of those quotes. So there's this quote that I heard once that when my grandmother said that to me, it flew in front of my face. And I was like, this is that moment. This is that choice moment, the pivot, fork in the road. And it's this is the quote. It says, Someone once told me the definition of hell, and it's that on the last day you have on earth, the person you became will meet the person you could have become.
Mm, mm,
On the last day you have on earth, the person you became will meet the person you could have become. And I felt that, like I felt this is that fork in the road where I get to keep living my life in one way based on what everyone else expected of me, trying to fulfill these cultural standards and my family's expectations and the expectations that I created in my own head. Or it was become alive, live your truth, step into the power that is you. And so that's what happened, and three, it wasn't easy. People look at it and they're like, oh, it must be easy. Like 3 years later, I fulfilled that promise to my grandmother that I would do it, that I would record an album, that I would do it. After breaking through all my limiting beliefs and the freaking crazy fears and doing therapy work and doing shadow work, I put out my first album in 2016 and it charted in the top 20. And my life changed instantly. And what was crazy is the whole time I was doing it, everybody told me I was crazy.
mm.
Everybody told me it wasn't possible for someone who had never been in the recording studio and just starting to chart. But because of my meditation practice, I knew how to listen to a different voice, to that voice of truth. And so, anyway, that's why I teach meditation, because it helps people access that space within them that's unshakable and immovable. And when you follow that voice,
Yeah.
everything changes. Anyway, that's my very long-winded answer, but hopefully it was worth it.
It was wonderful. Totally worth it.
Yeah.
So I know that I'm sure there's many of our audience members who might not think they can do that. That they might think they don't have it in them to show up and transform or metamorphosize.
Yeah.
How do you say that word? I don't know how to say that word.
Metamorphosize, I think. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
And yet, as you've shown and in your music, you believe that's true. I mean, I happen to agree with you, but I'm wondering what you would say to those of us watching, listening today who don't, who are like still there. What
Yeah.
would you say to them?
So this process of metamorphosis, which is my first album, I ended up calling Metamorphosis for that reason, is really an interesting process because what what actually happens when you just look at anything that goes through metamorphosis, let's just take like caterpillar to butterfly. Caterpillar's here, right? Caterpillar goes into a cocoon. Most of us want to skip this part, okay? When the caterpillar goes into the cocoon, it's in a state that's called a liminal state, liminality. And what liminal means in this state is you don't know where you're going yet, but you can't go back to what was. It's gone. And I think we've been in a collective liminal state for the last year,
Yeah.
and some change. And so, but what happens, what's so incredible is when the caterpillar goes into the cocoon, it turns into basically gel, mush.
Mhm.
And all of its cells, and this is not like woo woo spiritual that I'm telling you, this is actual science that I'm telling you, like biology.
Concrete.
They call it the cells when it's in the cocoon, they're called imaginal cells.
Mm.
That's literally what they're called. And the reason they're called imaginal cells is because every part of the caterpillar like turns into mush and has the ability to turn into any part of the butterfly. So it's not like the caterpillar's eyes become the butterfly's eyes or the caterpillar's leg becomes the butterfly's leg. That's not how it works. It's like the eye could become a toe. I don't know if butterflies have toes, but you get what I'm saying. Like,
We must have toes.
yeah, something, so they can go imaginal cells. But this liminal state, when everything turns into mush, we as humans, we're afraid. And so what we do is we say, I'm not getting into that cocoon until I know what color my wings are going to be, how big they're going to be, what spots are going to be on them. Nope, don't like spots. I need that pattern, that color, that texture. And we don't get into the cocoon. And so what I tell people is that what we want to do with our meditation practices and all of our practices is to build our resilience to being in that cocoon, the non-attachment, the not holding on to the outcome, the being in the discomfort, the being curious and open, the being compassionate with ourselves. And the last thing that I'll say about this is, you know, I can be a drama queen with this kind of stuff. And so when I did the album, I blew up my whole life, and moved everything into a storage unit and moved to New York and became a musician. I did the drama version. You don't have to do all that to go into a liminal state. There's micro ways that you can do this. And so I don't need you to think about that. I'm suggesting that everybody blows up their life and leaves their family and goes on their artistic journey. That's not what it's about. You may have a vision about your body or your well-being. You may have a vision about your career or your work that needs a slight adjustment. It's not always these huge adjustments. You might have a vision about your well-being or your romance or your relationships or your money or the way that you serve the world. And so the question becomes, what are you pressing into? What are you taking to the next level? What are you holding back? And how can we just take a step in to start the transformation process?
Absolutely. It requires that willingness,
Yeah.
because if we just put the conditions of, the wings with spots or stripes or, whatever color, we're going to miss all the opportunities.
All the mystery.
So I think that's a good segue actually into this other question I have for you about how you describe in your new book that it's a meditation book that's not really a meditation book. So I'm wondering if you can, talk to us about why you did that and how your book might inspire people to learn more about meditation. Where, what can that do for them if it's not about meditation, but it's about meditation? Help
Yeah.
us.
So I tell people my book is a meditation book for people who would never buy a meditation book. That's what I say. And for everybody else. But the real reason, for it is I have on the back of the book, the quote on the back of the book is, if you can worry, you can meditate. If you can worry, you can meditate. And it's because worrying and meditation work the same way. They work the same way. Literally, what happens when you worry? You come back to a centering thought, a mantra, over and over and over throughout your day. You're repeating this inside of yourself, homing back to it like a homing pigeon. With meditation, we have the opportunity to do the same thing. But I want to share something with you, Sarah, with all of you, is this is the flip. Okay, this is the trick. Fear and faith are the exact same thing. Flip sides of the same coin. And when I say that, people look at me like, okay, sounds good, but how? Listen carefully. Both fear and faith require you to believe in something that you can't see and that hasn't happened yet. Both. You're believing in something. And so with fear, we're believing in our worries. We're believing in demise. We're letting the media decide for us. We're letting our upbringing decide for us. With faith, we're believing in possibility. Possibilities bigger than our circumstances. We're stepping forward into our dreams. And so what I say about meditation, the reason I say it's not a meditation book is because my book is not a book that's just here to be like, let's meditate to relax. No, for most of us, relaxing is good, but it's that's not the top of the priority list, I'm saying let's meditate to become more alive. How do we use this practice? How do we use meditation as a tool, as a vehicle to help us step into the fullness that is our life, to help us overcome our toxic habits and beliefs, and to help us serve the planet and our purpose? So that's the way that you'll learn it throughout the book, is how to use meditation in action to become more alive.
That's beautiful. Sounds like the secret sauce in a way.
Yes.
Actually turning into our lives instead of somehow away.
And that's the big thing with meditation that I think a lot, and there are styles of meditation that ask you to do this, is there's this thing about disconnect from your life. I'm going to meditate. I need to disconnect from life. I need to turn my mind off. No, you don't. No.
Good luck, by the way.
By the way,
it's not going to go very well.
Yeah. It's funny because people always well, I can't get my mind to stop thinking. And I'm like, Have you ever gotten your heart to stop beating? No. Well, so like, why would you get your mind to stop thinking? And I
Yeah.
think it's like the propaganda of meditation. Like
Right.
what we actually want, I think, is to get our thoughts to work for us instead of against us. What
Hmm.
we actually want is not to disconnect from our lives, but to become more intimately connected with our lives in a way that helps us become more alive. And so that's the way that I orient us in Stay Woke. And, hopefully that helps people stay woke to wake up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe you could guide us through it a little bit more in terms of some of the different rituals or practices that you describe and how we can apply those to different areas of our life.
Yeah, totally. After I take a little sip. Mhm. So, um, I'll tell you this, okay? So, one of the things that like cornerstones of the book, the secret sauce, as you called it, is a practice that I guide people into called How to Discover Your Unique Energy Signature.
Mm.
And the reason why I call it that is I'm just going to keep it super real. So, in the colonization of our wellness practices,
Mm.
what has happened is we in the West have been taught, okay, I need to look outside of myself to ask someone else what I need to be well. And so we go, hey, teacher, hey, guru, hey, app, hey, book, hey, person. And it's okay to get support, right? But what happens is because everything is so commoditized, of course, they don't benefit from telling you how to find the answers within. Because if you knew how to find the answers within, you wouldn't be subscribing to this thing for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? And so that's not to say, like anyway, so what I'll say is this is the Stay Woke and Discovering Your Unique Energy Signature in the entire book. The way that I teach is I never ever throughout one moment in the book tell you this is what you have to do.
Mm.
The
Mm.
way I take you through it is like you're in a kitchen with a lot of ingredients. And I'm
Mm.
just asking you the right questions to frame into your life so that you know which ingredients to pick to make the recipe that fits for you with your life. The way a busy mom meditates with 3 kids that's working 2 jobs is going to be very different than, a mom who has all her kids out of the house and is divorced and is like having her spiritual awakening, in the mountains. Like it's just very different experiences. And so, and all of them are valid, but how do we use these practices in our lives? And so, what I invite people into in Stay Woke is ultimately I say this. I say, here's who you are now. This is really the book in a nutshell. Here's who you are now. Here's who you want to become. There's a gap. There's a gap. And what most of us think we need to do to fill that gap is doing more.
Right.
Doing. And that goes to the story I told in the beginning. We think it's the external. What Stay Woke invites you into is to ask you the question, who do you need to be
Mm.
to fill that gap?
Mm.
What is the energy that you need to cultivate to build that gap? And that energy is what's called a unique energy signature. And everybody has one. I teach you how to find it in the book. And what happens when you find it is you see the internal change that you need to make so that your external world can
Mm.
show up differently.
Mm.
And that's, so that all the rituals, all the process, the whole step by step through it kind of takes you through that. And at the end of the book, there's 50 guided practices that come with a free audio guided practice that I actually am reading with music or leading. And that talk about things that are more specific, like anxiety and stress or trouble
Mhm.
sleeping or confidence, self-love, But the beginning whole half of the book is teaching you how to find that energy signature so you can change your life through meditation.
Mm. Yeah, beautiful. I believe you also describe this process of actually turning towards toxic thoughts instead of just trying to dismiss them or brush them off, put a positive spin on it.
Mhm.
Could you guide us through what is that?
Yeah. So it's interesting. And I'm the reason I would love to guide us through like a practice, but I'm not because I think I would guide people into kind of a space and then be like, okay, bye. With like, I don't want to bring up all your trauma and then say like, see you later, So, but what
Well,
I'll tell
maybe
you,
we'll talk about how they can find you afterwards.
yeah. So, but I'll tell you this
Mhm.
is we've had enough damn affirmations. And they're not bad. Nothing's wrong with them, but nothing's wrong with them. But there's only so many times you're going to stand in the mirror and say, like, I am beautiful. 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 And then still look in the mirror 5 minutes later, like, I'm fat. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like, there has to be another way, right? And this actually led to the point of earlier. Remember, I said there's a half of the equation that people skip. This leads me right to that point. It's this. It's in the spiritual and wellness community. We're so good at building the light. Light, love and light, build the light. We're light workers, the rainbow, the whole thing, right? We want to like think positively and listen to podcasts and books and all this kind of stuff, which is wonderful. But what's often missing is us looking at the shadow. The shadow work that we have to do. And when I say shadow work, what I mean is it's not just therapy or whatever. Shadow work specifically is what's hiding in that hidden corner of your life that you can't even see, that you're not even looking at because of shame or blame or whatever it was. And I like to think of it like a marionette doll. It's like has the strings. It's like the shadow, what's in your shadow is what's actually holding the strings. And so you could listen to every podcast you want. If the strings are still on you, you end up in the same cycles. This is how we end up, so many of us. You are in a relationship with somebody, whether it's romantic or not. You get out of the relationship because you realize it's not right for you anymore. Get in a new relationship with a different person, and you're in the same relationship. Different person, different name, right? How is it that the whole external could change? A whole new person, and you're in the same situation? The shadow. So what happens is we have to learn to cut the strings. So cutting the strings means we have to get close to them. We have to look into them. We have to get clear on where they are and what they're holding so that we can start to cut those strings and set ourselves free. And so that's what I invite people in one of the chapters of the book into a chapter on self-sabotage. And toxic thoughts are one of the self-sabotaging patterns. And that's one that we get into pretty deeply in Stay Woke.
I just listened to one of your podcast episodes that was all about that as well.
Yes. Oh my God, the power of thoughts. That was a big episode.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So personally, I'm experiencing a bit of cognitive dissonance because at the same time, we have this wellness topic, this ability and thought of looking into who we are, how we are, being ourselves. And at the same time, getting all these messages from the world. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough whatever, fill in the blank. I can't do enough for my family. I can't be enough for my family. I mean, I am speaking personally. Like, this is something that I experience. It's so like it's both at the same time that it's possible. I know there's a journey there. I know there's a possibility. And I also know that you just released an EP in 2020 called I Am Enough. So I was thinking about talking with you today. I was thinking, well, here we go. Like, here's this place where we can actually embrace this conundrum.
Yeah.
This dissonance.
I think, Sarah, there's this thing in the wellness community, and it's a part of, again, the colonization, the corporatization of the commoditization of the whole process is perfectionism.
Oh yeah.
It's like the system says that thing that I started with in the beginning. If you do enough, if you learn enough, if you just do a little bit more, then maybe you'll finally be enough. If you just get it perfect, just another 40-day challenge, it's like, no, there's another one. But what happens is the challenges themselves are not the challenge, just the whole thing is giving you a promise that won't be fulfilled. Right. And then because that promise isn't fulfilled, you think something's wrong with you. Right. And so we keep cycling back into it to try to be perfect, right? And my whole goal is to say, step out of that cycle. Yeah. Not saying step out of the whole wellness world altogether. It's no, how do we step into it with a new intention? And one of the things that I know is that no matter how many podcasts you listen to, how many summits you do, how much you grow, learn, read, whatever, there's always going to be that child inside of each of us who just wants to know that they're enough. That's it, that they're enough, not for what they do, but for who they are.
Would you sing to us?
Yes. Let me get my guitar. So, I wrote this song, I Am Enough, which I'll sing for all of you right now, which was kind of a surprise. We didn't know we were going to do this completely until we started talking, but I did bring my guitar luckily with me on this trip. So, there is a version of us, like I said, that child inside of each of us who just wants to know they're enough. And so instead of looking at this like a performance, I would like for you to think of this as like a little prayer, a little prayer to that child inside of you. And as we start this, I'd love for everybody to just close their eyes for a moment. And I want you to imagine a childhood version of yourself. At any age will do. And I want you to notice as you're looking at this childhood version of you, where did you land? Are you indoor or are you outdoor in that vision? What color are you wearing? Is there anybody there with you? And what did that child need most in their life? What did they need to hear most? Maybe it was, I am enough. Maybe it was, I'm not giving up on you. And so as we do this song, this is a prayer and an intention for that child in you. You can place your hands over your heart and just feel it with me. And the words of the chorus are, I am enough. I am golden, baby, yeah. So this is for that child in you. Little boy, don't cry. You've been in pain. Enough, no. Little girl, don't hide. You're finally safe. Enough. One day I'll look into your eyes, show you don't need to hide behind disguise, no. Spread your wings, you're terrified. Don't be afraid, you're born to fly. I'm by your side, yeah. I am enough. I am golden, baby. I am enough. I am enough. I am enough. Oh, I am golden, baby. I am enough. I am enough. Oh, little girl, it's alright. You're taking the blame. Enough, no. Little boy, don't hide. You've been ashamed. Enough. One day I'll look into your eyes, show you don't need to hide behind disguise, no. Spread your wings, you're terrified. Don't be afraid, you're born to fly. I'm by your side. Here we go, say I am enough, hey. I am golden, baby, I am enough, I am enough, try it with me, come on. I am enough, oh, I am golden, baby, I am enough, I am enough, oh, you are enough, you are golden, baby, you are enough, you are enough. So here's what I want you to do. I'm gonna keep saying you are enough, and I want you to whisper it to yourself with your hands over your heart, going back to that child in you, like you're singing straight to that childhood version of yourself. Here we go. You are enough. To your heart, mean it.
You are golden, baby. You are enough. You are enough. You are golden. You are enough. One more time. Come on. You are enough. You are golden, baby. You are enough. Last time. We're gonna go till we are enough. We are enough. Hey, we are golden, baby. We are enough. This is our moment. We are enough. This is our time. We are enough. Oh, we are golden, baby. We are enough. We are enough. No, we are enough. We are golden, baby. We are enough. We are enough. All of us in the world. We are enough. Together. We are golden, baby. We are enough. We are enough. No. Ooh, I am enough. I am enough. Ooh, you are enough. You are enough. We are enough. We are enough. And just feel that, like just feel the resonance of that in your heart. Feel it vibrate. That feeling of enoughness, that we can take with us so that that no matter who you love, no matter what color your skin is, no matter how much money is in your bank account or not at this time, that you are worthy, that you are enough, that you are golden, baby. And we rise together.
How can we find you online?
Okay, so the best way, easiest way is just to go to my website, justinmichaelwilliams.com. Everything is there. There's free meditations for you. There's the book. There's my podcast. I have so many free resources for people and online courses. And if you want to work with me more deeply, you can go there, justinmichaelwilliams.com. And there's a special masterclass there that kind of guides you through a process of helping you discover that dream and starting to tap into that unique energy signature that's inside of you. So thank you for being with me. I'm easy to find. Just search Justin Michael Williams. You'll find me.
This has been one of the biggest delights of my life.
Oh, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you for bringing your heart and soul to this and the vulnerability that you do. I do a lot of summits, and this one felt very special to me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for being with us.